Wait, before you spend that Roosevelt dime, check it closely. Some Roosevelt dimes have rare years, minting errors, or unusual features that collectors are paying big money for. Even a small mistake can make a dime extremely valuable. Could you be holding one right now? Look at your coins carefully, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more hidden coin treasures. In 1968, millions of dimes were produced for everyday use across the United States. At the time, most people paid little attention to the small silver-colored coins they received in change. However, hidden among the ordinary pieces released into circulation that year are a few extremely rare examples that contain minting errors. These unusual coins, especially those produced at the Denver Mint, have captured the attention of collectors for decades. Today, certain 1968 Roosevelt dimes with rare minting mistakes have reached impressive values ranging from about $65,500 to as high as $148,800 depending on the rarity of the error and the coin's condition. The Roosevelt dime series began in 1946, shortly after the death of Franklin D. Roosevelt. Roosevelt had been widely admired for his leadership during the Great Depression and World War II, and he also played a major role in supporting the March of Dimes campaign that fought against polio. Because of this connection, the U.S. government decided to honor him by placing his portrait on the 10-cent coin. The design of the Roosevelt dime was created by sculptor John R. Sinek. On the obverse side of the coin appears Roosevelt's profile facing left. Surrounding the portrait are the inscriptions Liberty, In God We Trust, and the year of issue. On coins struck in Denver, a small D mint mark appears just above the date. The reverse design features a torch at the center, symbolizing liberty. On each side of the torch are two branches, an olive branch representing peace and an oak branch symbolizing strength and independence. Above the design appears the motto E Pluribus Unum, while the words United States of America and One Dime appear along the outer-edged BY 1968. The composition of the dime had recently changed. Earlier dimes contained 90% silver, but rising silver prices led to a major adjustment in U.S. coinage. Beginning in 1965, dimes were produced using a copper-nickel-clad composition. The outer layers are made of copper and nickel, while the inner core consists primarily of copper. This layered structure gives the coin its familiar silvery appearance while maintaining durability for circulation. The 1968 Roosevelt dime has a diameter of 17.9 millimeters and an official weight of 2.27 grams. For collectors, that weight is an important detail when examining coins for potential minting errors. A small digital scale can quickly determine whether a coin matches the standard weight. If a coin weighs noticeably more or less than 2.27 grams, it may have been struck on an incorrect metal blank or experienced another unusual minting problem. The coins were produced by the United States Mint, with the Denver facility responsible for striking the 1968 dimes. The minting process begins with large metal sheets that are cut into circular blanks called planchets. These blanks are heated, cleaned, and then fed into powerful coining presses where dies strike the design onto both sides of the coin. Despite careful quality control, the process is not perfect. Occasionally something goes wrong during production, and a coin leaves the mint with a noticeable error. These mistakes are rare, but they are precisely what makes certain coins so valuable to collectors today. One of the most famous errors associated with the 1968 Roosevelt dime is the double die variety. A double die occurs when the die used to strike coins receives more than one impression from the hub during its creation. If those impressions are slightly misaligned, the resulting die carries duplicated details. Coins struck with that die display visible doubling in certain areas of the design on some 1968 dimes. Collectors have observed doubling in the lettering of Liberty, parts of the date, and even sections of Roosevelt's profile. Under magnification, the letters appear slightly shifted or shadowed, creating a distinctive doubled look. Because double die errors originate in the die itself, every coin struck from that die carries the same characteristics. In recent years, well-preserved examples of these double die dimes have sold for remarkable prices. One certified specimen graded in near-perfect mint state condition reached a value of about $65,500 at auction. Its sharp strike and clearly visible doubling made it highly desirable among error coin collectors. Another dramatic error seen on 1968 dimes is the off-center strike. This occurs when a planchet is not properly aligned within the coining press. Instead of receiving a centered design, the coin is struck with part of the design missing while the remaining portion is shifted toward one edge. Off-center coins can vary widely in appearance. Some may be only slightly misaligned, while others show as much as 50% of the design missing. For collectors, the most valuable examples are those where the date and mint mark remain visible, while the off-center error is dramatic enough to be easily recognized in one notable case. An uncirculated 1968 D dime with a strong off-center strike was authenticated by professional grading experts and later sold privately for more than $100,000. Its unusual appearance made it stand out immediately, and collectors recognized its rarity. Perhaps the most valuable category of errors involves wrong planchet strikes. This type of error occurs when a coin is struck on a metal blank intended for a different denomination. Because each coin has specific weight and size requirements, the resulting piece often appears unusual in both dimensions and composition. For example, if a dime design were struck on a planchet meant for a penny or another coin, the finished piece would have an abnormal weight and color. These errors are extremely rare because mint employees carefully separate blanks by denomination during production. Nevertheless, a few such mistakes have been discovered over the years. One remarkable example of a 1968 D Roosevelt dime struck on an incorrect planchet sold at a specialized numismatic auction for approximately $148,800. The coin's unique composition and verified authenticity made it one of the most valuable error dimes from that era. Condition also plays a major role in determining a coin's final value. Many 1968 D dimes circulated for decades, collecting scratches, wear, and other damage. A rare error coin that has remained in mint state condition, meaning it shows no signs of circulation and still retains its original luster, can be worth dramatically more than a worn example. Professional grading organizations carefully evaluate coins using detailed criteria. They examine surface quality, strike sharpness, luster, and overall eye appeal before assigning a grade. Coins graded MS-65 or higher are considered exceptional, and when combined with a rare mint error, their value can increase significantly. What makes these coins particularly exciting is that they can still be discovered today. Although millions of 1968 D dimes were produced, only a tiny fraction contain the rare errors collectors seek. Some have been found in old coin collections, inherited jars of spare change, or rolls of coins that had been stored away for years. Collectors searching for valuable examples typically examine their coins under magnification, looking carefully at the date, mint mark, and lettering for unusual doubling or distortion. Weighing the coin can also reveal clues about potential planchet errors or other abnormalities. Documented auction records showing values between $65,500 and $148,800 demonstrate just how significant these small minting mistakes can become over time. What began as an ordinary 10-cent coin produced for everyday commerce has, in a few rare cases, transformed into a highly prized collectible. A simple coin once used for small purchases now represents an intriguing piece of American minting history. Hidden among millions of ordinary dimes, a few extraordinary 1968 D Roosevelt era coins remain scattered across collections and forgotten change jars, waiting for someone to notice the tiny details that reveal their remarkable value. In 1975, millions of dimes moved through the American economy every day, passing quickly from stores to customers and into pockets, cash registers, and bank rolls. For most people, these small 10-cent coins were simply everyday money used for small purchases. Few individuals ever stopped to examine them closely. Yet hidden among the ordinary coins produced that year were a few rare pieces with unusual minting mistakes. These coins, especially those produced at the Denver Mint, have become highly desirable collectibles. Certain 1975 D Roosevelt dimes with rare minting errors have been known to reach values ranging from about $57,600 to as much as $140,450 depending on the rarity of the error and the coin's condition. The Roosevelt dime series itself began in 1946, shortly after the passing of Franklin D. Roosevelt. Roosevelt was widely admired for his leadership during the Great Depression and World War II, and he was also closely associated with the March of Dimes campaign that helped fund research against polio. Because of this connection, the United States government chose to honor him by placing his portrait on the nation's 10-cent coin. The design was created by John R. Sinek, the chief engraver of the United States Mint at the time. On the obverse side of the coin appears Roosevelt's profile facing left. Around the portrait are the inscriptions "Liberty," "In God We Trust," and the year of minting. On coins struck at the Denver facility, a small D mint mark appears next to the date, identifying the location where the coin was produced. The reverse side of the Roosevelt dime features a symbolic design that reflects important American ideals. At the center stands a torch, representing liberty and enlightenment. On one side of the torch appears an olive branch symbolizing peace, while on the other side is an oak branch representing strength and independence. Above the torch is the Latin motto E pluribus unum, and along the outer edge appear the words United States of America and one dime. By 1975, the composition of the dime had already undergone a major transformation. Earlier dimes minted before 1965 contained 90% silver. However, rising silver prices during the 1960s forced the government to change the metal composition of circulating coins. Beginning in 1965, dimes were struck using a copper-nickel-clad structure. This means the coin has outer layers of copper and nickel bonded to a pure copper core. The 1975 D Roosevelt dime has a diameter of 17.9 millimeters and a standard weight of 2.27 grams. These measurements are extremely important when collectors search for possible minting errors. If a coin deviates significantly from the expected weight, it may indicate that something unusual occurred during production. The minting process begins with large metal sheets that are cut into circular blanks known as planchets. These blanks are then heated in furnaces to soften the metal and cleaned to remove impurities. Afterward, they pass through an upsetting mill that forms a raised rim around the edge. Finally, the prepared planchets enter powerful coining presses where engraved dies strike the designs onto both sides of the coin. Although this process is carefully controlled, it is not completely immune to mistakes. Occasionally, mechanical problems, die misalignments, or planchet mix-ups can occur. When such issues slip past quality control, they produce error coins that eventually enter circulation. Over time, these rare mistakes become highly prized by collectors. One of the most interesting errors seen on some 1975 D Roosevelt dimes is the double die variety. This type of error occurs during the production of the coin's die rather than during the striking of individual coins. When the design hub presses the image into the die more than once at slightly different angles, parts of the design may appear doubled on the finished coins. Collectors studying these dimes have found examples where the doubling appears in the letters of Liberty, sections of the date, and occasionally in the details of Roosevelt's profile. Under magnification, the letters may appear slightly shifted or layered, creating a shadow-like effect. Because the doubling originates in the die itself, every coin struck from that die carries the same visual characteristic. A high-grade example of a double die 1975 D Roosevelt dime once sold at a specialized numismatic auction for approximately $57,600. The coin displayed sharp detail, strong luster, and clearly visible doubling that made it particularly attractive to collectors. Another striking type of error involves off-center strikes. This happens when the coin blank is not properly aligned between the dies when the press activates. Instead of receiving a perfectly centered design, the coin is struck with part of the image missing, while the rest is pushed toward one side. Off-center errors vary widely in appearance. Some coins may show only a small misalignment, while others can be dramatically shifted with as much as half the design missing. The most valuable examples usually retain the visible date and mint mark while displaying a clear off-center strike. In one notable case, an uncirculated 1975 D dime with a dramatic off-center strike and strong eye appeal was sold privately to a collector for a price well above $90,000. The unusual appearance of the coin made it instantly recognizable as a rare minting mistake. Among the most valuable error types are wrong planchet strikes. This occurs when a coin is struck on a metal blank that was intended for another denomination. Because each coin denomination has specific weight and size standards, a wrong planchet coin often appears noticeably different from a normal piece. For example, if a dime design were struck on a smaller or lighter blank meant for another coin, the finished piece would have a different weight or diameter. These errors are extremely rare because the mint carefully organizes planchets by denomination during production. Despite these precautions, a few such mistakes have been discovered. One extraordinary 1975 D. Roosevelt dime struck on an incorrect metal planchet was authenticated by professional grading experts and later sold at auction for approximately $140,450. The coin's unusual weight and verified composition confirmed that it was not struck on the standard clad dime blank. The condition of a coin is another crucial factor in determining its value. Most dimes from the 1970s circulated heavily and show signs of wear, scratches, or discoloration. However, an error coin preserved in mint state condition, meaning it has never been used in circulation and still retains its original luster, can be dramatically more valuable. Professional grading services evaluate coins according to strict standards. They examine the coin's strike quality, surface preservation, luster, and overall eye appeal before assigning a grade. Coins graded MS-65 or higher are considered exceptional examples, especially for coins from the 1970s that were widely circulated. One of the most exciting aspects of error coin collecting is the possibility of discovery. Even today, rare examples of 1975 D. Roosevelt dimes may still exist in old coin jars, inherited collections, or rolls of coins stored in banks for decades. Because millions of these dimes were produced, it is possible that a few rare errors remain unnoticed. Collectors searching for these coins often examine them under magnification, carefully studying the lettering, date, and portrait for signs of doubling or misalignment. Weighing the coin with a precise digital scale can also reveal clues about potential planchet errors. Verified auction records showing prices between $57,600 and $140,450 demonstrate that collectors place significant value on rare minting mistakes. What began as an ordinary 10-cent coin created for everyday transactions has, in a few exceptional cases, become a highly sought-after collectible. The 1975 D. Roosevelt dime reminds collectors that even the most common coins can sometimes carry hidden surprises. Among the countless dimes produced for everyday commerce, a few extraordinary error coins slipped quietly into circulation decades ago. Today they remain scattered across collections and forgotten coin jars, waiting for someone to notice the tiny details that reveal their remarkable history and value. In 1981, millions of dimes moved quietly through the American economy. They were used in vending machines, grocery stores, laundromats, and public telephones. Most people never looked twice at the small 10-cent coins they carried in their pockets. Yet among the ordinary dimes released that year, a few rare pieces left the mint with unusual minting mistakes. Decades later, these rare error coins have captured the attention of collectors, and certain 1981 D. Roosevelt dimes have sold for impressive amounts ranging from about $52,800 to as much as $132,650. The Roosevelt dime series began in 1946 after the death of Franklin D. Roosevelt. Roosevelt had become a national symbol of resilience and leadership during the Great Depression and the Second World War. He was also closely associated with the March of Dimes campaign, which raised funds to combat the devastating effects of polio. Because of this connection, the U.S. government chose to honor him by placing his portrait on the nation's 10-cent coin. The design for the Roosevelt dime was created by Chief Engraver John R. Sinek. On the front of the coin, Roosevelt's profile faces left, surrounded by the words, "Liberty," and "In God We Trust," along with the year of minting. For coins produced in Denver, a small D mint mark appears near the date, indicating that the coin was struck at the Denver Mint. The reverse side of the coin carries a symbolic design. At the center stands a torch representing liberty and enlightenment. On the left side is an olive branch symbolizing peace, while on the right side appears an oak branch representing strength and independence. Around the edge are the inscriptions United States of America, one dime, and the Latin motto E pluribus unum. By 1981, the composition of the dime had already changed from the earlier silver coins used before 1965. Instead of silver, the coin was produced using a copper-nickel clad structure. The outer layers are composed of copper and nickel bonded to a core of nearly pure copper. This combination gives the dime its familiar silvery color while making the coin durable enough to survive years of circulation. The 1981 D. Roosevelt dime has an official diameter of 17.9 millimeters and a standard weight of 2.27 grams. For collectors examining coins for potential errors, this weight measurement is extremely important. A precise digital scale can help determine whether a coin has the correct weight. If a dime weighs noticeably more or less than the standard 2.27 grams, it may indicate a wrong planchet strike or another unusual minting anomaly. The coins were produced by the United States Mint, with the Denver facility responsible for striking the 1981 D variety. The minting process begins when large sheets of metal are fed into blanking presses that punch out small circular discs known as planchets. These blanks are then heated in furnaces to soften the metal and clean to remove any surface impurities. After preparation, the planchets move through an upsetting mill that raises a slight rim around the edge. This rim helps the metal flow properly when the coin is struck. Finally, the planchets are fed into high-speed coining presses where engraved steel dies strike both sides of the coin with tremendous force, imprinting the designs of Roosevelt and the torch. Despite the precision of modern minting equipment, errors can still occur. When something goes wrong during the process, the resulting coin may display unusual features that distinguish it from normal circulation coins. These rare minting mistakes are highly sought after by collectors because they represent unique moments when the minting process did not function perfectly. One of the most fascinating errors seen on 1981 D Roosevelt dimes is the double die variety. A double die occurs during the creation of the die used to strike coins. If the die receives more than one impression from the hub at slightly different angles, the design elements may appear doubled on the coins produced from that die. Collectors have identified examples where the doubling is visible in the lettering of Liberty, in parts of the date, and sometimes around Roosevelt's facial features. Under magnification, the letters may appear to have a shadow or slight duplication. Because the error occurs on the die itself, every coin struck from that die carries the same doubling effect. In recent years, high-grade examples of 1981 D double die dimes have attracted strong interest in the collector market. One well-preserved coin certified by professional grading experts sold at auction for approximately $52,800. The sharpness of the strike and the clarity of the doubling contributed significantly to its impressive value. Another striking error associated with the 1981 D dime is the off-center strike. This occurs when the metal planchet is not positioned correctly inside the coining press during the striking process. Instead of a perfectly centered design, the coin receives only part of the intended image, while the rest of the planchet remains blank. Off-center coins can vary widely in appearance depending on the degree of misalignment. Minor misalignments may show only a small shift in the design, while dramatic examples can have half of the coin's surface missing the design entirely. Collectors especially value coins where the date and mint mark remain visible while the off-center error is large enough to be clearly noticeable. 1 Dramatic 1981 D Roosevelt dime displaying a strong off-center strike was authenticated and later sold in a specialized numismatic auction for well over $90,000. Its unusual visual appearance made it instantly recognizable as a mint error, and collectors competed for the rare piece. Perhaps the most valuable category of errors involves coins struck on the wrong planchet. This type of mistake happens when a blank intended for a different denomination accidentally enters the dime production line. Because each coin type has its own size and metal composition, the resulting coin can appear noticeably different from a standard dime. A wrong planchet dime might weigh more or less than 2.27 grams, or it might display unusual coloration if the metal composition differs from the normal copper-nickel clad structure. These errors are extremely rare because the mint carefully separates blanks by denomination before they enter the coining presses. Nevertheless, a few examples have been discovered over the years. One remarkable 1981 D Roosevelt dime struck on an incorrect planchet was authenticated by numismatic experts and later sold for about $132,650. The coin's unique composition and confirmed authenticity made it one of the most valuable error dimes from that period. Condition also plays an essential role in determining a coin's value. Most dimes produced in 1981 circulated heavily, accumulating scratches, wear, and other signs of use. A rare error coin preserved in mint state condition, meaning it has never been used in circulation and still retains its original luster, can be worth dramatically more than a worn example. Professional grading organizations carefully examine coins before assigning a grade. They evaluate surface preservation, strike quality, luster, and overall eye appeal. Coins graded MS65 or higher are considered exceptional, and when paired with a rare mint error, their value can increase significantly. The exciting aspect of 1981 D Roosevelt dime errors is that some may still be hiding in plain sight. Millions of these coins were produced and distributed across the country. Many ended up in coin jars, old piggy banks, or inherited collections that have not been examined closely. Collectors searching for valuable examples typically study their coins under magnification, paying close attention to the date, mint mark, and lettering for signs of doubling or distortion. Weighing the coin on a precise scale can also help reveal unusual planchet errors or other anomalies. Auction records showing values between $52,800 and $132,650 demonstrate how valuable these small minting mistakes can become. What began as an ordinary 10-cent coin produced for everyday transactions has, in a few rare cases, become a prized collectible sought by numismatists around the world. A simple dime once used to buy small items now represents a fascinating piece of minting history. Hidden among millions of ordinary coins, a handful of rare 1981 Roosevelt dime errors continue to wait quietly for someone to notice the tiny details that reveal their extraordinary value.